I remember discovering Super Rare and Rarible, and I was just doing research on Twitter about it, and I just didn't find anything that was, related to music. I just didn't see much of it. And I thought, why not? Like, it's just another type of file. Why isn't there like music NFTs? I would expect it to be. And, it was very niche.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Music NFT Archive, where we document and discuss the history and growth of tokenized music. I'm your host, Tor, founder of Music NFT Archive, avid collector of music NFTs, and the artist behind Studio Nouveau, the moniker I began using to mint my own music in 2020. I've been obsessed with tokenized music ever since. Today, we are joined by Xedra, a pioneering artist who was on the forefront of the audio NFT renaissance that took place in 2020 and beyond. Xedra, welcome to Music NFT Archive.
Thank you, Ter. It's a great opportunity to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So, just to get started, can you tell us about your journey as a musician before you became interested in crypto and blockchain technology?
Sure. I I guess it all started when I was between 9 or 10 years old, when I started to get guitar classes. We had a guitar at home, and I went to some classes, and that gave me an introduction to music theory. But also, video games gave me a good introduction to music, and um, yeah. For context, I'm based in Mexico, and I've lived in the U.S. both as a kid and when I went to college when I was 18. Uh, I was born in 2000, and so it was around 2000, yeah, 2009 or 10 when I started to get guitar classes, and I would also get um, exposed to electronic music through my brothers and video games as well. My first approach to music making was through a video game um, for the Nintendo DS, the Korg DS10. Do you know that game?
Oh, I don't think I do actually.
Yeah, well, I had a Nintendo DS, and I remember I really couldn't afford buying games. I eventually got a flash card and learned how to download the games and put them on the DS. And one of those games I found was the Korg DS10, and it's I wouldn't call it a game. It's like a complete audio workstation emulated on the Nintendo DS by Korg. So it has a couple synths, it has sequencers, has a drum machine, has a mixer. Like you can sequence patterns, and it's amazing. I made a bunch of loops and tracks there, like little beats. And yeah, that was around 2010 or so when I was 2012 and 13. I had different interests. I was making videos with friends, and I was interested in, and I had a YouTube channel, and I wanted to make music for my YouTube channel. So that's when I got FL Studio, and it was very easy to understand it because I had that experience with the Nintendo DS, like this core game. Basically, the same elements. You have your synths, you have your sequencers or piano roll, and you have your mixer. You can arrange those patterns. So yeah, I started um, posting my music on SoundCloud around 2013 and 2014. Um, yeah, and I think I started using the Split name because I used to, for the majority of the time I've been making music, I had another alias, Split. And
Yeah.
this name came from Minecraft nickname. Like I would play Minecraft and I had this nickname and I kind of just stuck with it. Yeah, and 2014, that's when I got involved in like music producer communities on Facebook. Like I joined groups that were like had other producers. We shared knowledge or feedback, and started posting on SoundCloud. A friend of mine at the time um, recommended me to submit my music to a music label called System Recordings, and because they didn't have a high standard of like they wouldn't have like strict standards about like what to sign, what to publish, and so I really wanted to get my music on streaming platforms, especially on Beatport. Like it was more exclusive, I guess, to have your music on Beatport. I was trying to make dance music, and that Beatport is kind of the store for DJs. So that's when I had my first and last record deal in 2014, which is like if you look up what is the oldest thing you can find from the music that I was making, that's probably the oldest.
Wow, gotcha.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, and like after that, 2015, I remember I was reaching the end of middle school, and I made my first physical release. I made an EP, and I wanted to make some CDs, and I made like eight copies at first, and like they sold out pretty quickly. Like people, like friends from school would buy it, and made other copies, and like I think there's around 20 copies. Some friends still have it. It was 2016 when I started to experiment with Creative Commons licenses. I was shifting to a different kind of music that was less like club or dance. It was more down tempo and ambient and easy listening. And by using Creative Commons licenses, I was able to reach a lot of people because people would use this kind of music for their YouTube videos and blogs. And I remember submitting my music with Creative Commons licenses to these channels that would promote like royalty-free music. And I have like about 3 releases with Creative Commons license that on YouTube they have like over 1 million views. And
Wow.
I just find that was crazy. That period of time, like 2016 and 17, that's when my following on SoundCloud kind of really started to kick off. A lot of people would see this music, and they would go through my SoundCloud, and I actually made some money because people would purchase the song on Bandcamp. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So around, I guess like 2018 wasn't a year I did much music. There was a lot of things happening. I was graduating from high school. I had a breakup. That's when I moved to the US to study, to work and study. And so it was around 2019 when I actually started to learn about Ethereum. So I had some background in programming. Like I taught myself JavaScript and some web development. And I was kind of aiming for specializing or getting a job in UX UI. So UX UI was something that I was passionate about. I'm still very interested in that. And I remember that at a time I was working and studying, and I found about Robinhood, the Robinhood app. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So so I was fascinated by the UI actually, like the app. I really liked the UI, how it displayed stocks, and like when you shifted to crypto, like it even showed you to different interface and aesthetic, and I just thought it was really cool. So I started like putting some money there, and eventually losing money, and it got me interested. It's like, okay, what is Ethereum, right? I remember that through the app you could see news about the assets, and one of the news was on Ethereum was that the Constantinople hard fork, and I was like, what is that? What even is a decentralized? What is this? Right? That's when I started to research about Ethereum, and I thought this is pretty cool. I eventually moved out from Robinhood and just started to got an exchange account. Like I managed to get some ETH and started to use the apps. Yeah, so like 2019 was when I think that the apps that got my attention the most were Compound, Maker, and eventually Ratable, like NFTs and crypto art. Um,
Well, can I ask
so
you actually?
sure.
I what I like to do when I sort of study people's artist wallets is sort of go back to the very beginning. And
Sure.
you should take a look at the Studio Nouveau artist wallet early transactions. It's kind of funny, but because I was just like buying some random things, and it's like I was just kind of testing out my wallet at that time. But I noticed
Hmm.
that like I think in the early Split wallet, it was like DeFi apps and stuff like that. So is that the wallet you were using? Is the wallet you ended up using for your first like NFT mints?
Yeah, probably. I had probably a couple of wallets that I was using. I was using for most of the things that I was doing on chain. A couple of wallets, and they're probably linked together. So if you went all the way back to like the first funded account, you probably found the apps that I was using.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of strikes me like how you have like such a good technical command of, the way you set up your, and we'll get into this, but the way you set up some of your early mints with like an ENS setup and everything, it was just like so, so much more advanced than anything that I was doing on chain. I definitely used like custodial things for the first couple of years that I was in crypto. Um, but I do want to take a step back to your musical background a little bit more. Like, did you do much like live performances and things like that, or were you really like online based, or what do you think about that?
Um, I think I've always been a bedroom producer. I'm still like a bedroom producer. I'm just
Yeah.
I made music on my computer and I will post it. I would be primarily online. Actually, like throughout 2016 and 17, I was very much involved in several music producer communities and collectives, and it was really fun. Um, but I barely had any gigs and events. I had some locally, but there weren't that many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, I do perform a lot on guitar actually, but as a producer, as like an electronic music producer, I
Hmm.
that's exactly what I would say is like I'm a bedroom producer even to this day for all of my Studio Nouveau music anyway. But something I have to say is like listening, and I was feeling this today too, like listening to your music, I really feel your harmonic language really resonates with my own sensibilities. I'm kind of curious, like, I know you mentioned some things, but like, are there any particular musical influences that you think like may have shaped your sort of like harmonic style or it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So going back even further, like I mentioned, video games being a main influence, and there's a couple of video games that I can point you to that really introduced me or influenced me musically. The first one would be Extreme G2. It's a Nintendo 64 game,
Okay.
and both of these games, by the way, like are racing games. They're futuristic racing games, and so Extreme G2 has a very cool drum and bass jungle soundtrack. I would play that game a lot just because of the experience with the music. Um, and the other game is Wipeout Pure. Are you familiar with the Wipeout series from PlayStation?
I'm not, I feel like it's familiar, but I don't know if I ever played it.
Okay, so Wipeout is a series of games for the PlayStation. It's actually one of the flagship games series from PlayStation. It's a racing game, and from the very early releases of these games, they had very good soundtracks. But the game that I played was Wipeout Pure, and this this game has artists like Aphex Twin, LFO, Tiesto,
Oh,
some
wow.
underground artists. Like it's immaculate. It's very good. And also at the time, I was exposed to Daft Punk. Deadmau5 was trending. The internet was, I was already using the family PC, so yeah, I was very much into electronic music, and uh, you know, I remember listening to early Skrillex music. Yeah, so I guess those are my very first influences in music.
Yeah, I love that. And video game music definitely was a big influence to me. So it's that's really cool to hear about that. Um, and so, kind of moving ahead a little bit, I'm kind of curious. So, as you're getting involved, as you're getting interested in Ethereum and you're starting to like play with DeFi apps, you know,
Hmm.
at what point did you start like connecting your musical brain to all of this? Like, or was there anyone when you were first experimenting with things that you noticed was thinking about musical use cases, or like, do you recall any sort of things like that early on for you?
I think I searched for it because I remember discovering super rare and Ratable, and I was just doing research on Twitter about it, and I just didn't find anything that was related to music. I just didn't see much of it, and I thought, why not? Like, it's just another type of file. Why isn't there like music NFTs? I would expect it to be, and it was very
Yeah.
niche. I guess like I don't know if I'm remembering wrong, but I think Ratable, it was so small that it had a sidebar where you could just scroll through all the artists that were on the platform, or at least the most active artists. But like you could find yourself there if you minted something, or if you know, it was so small. And I was looking at what people were collecting, and I thought these are collectibles. These are, some of it is graphic design, some of it is cute collectibles or related to something. Like cryptovoxels was a thing as well, but I didn't really find anything on music. Also, I saw like the more significant money happening on super rare. Like it had this side of, I guess, like fine art in super rare, but super rare didn't have music either. So I thought, like, why isn't there music? And I was also studying IPFS. Like, I was just studying all the thing, uh, and so that's when I thought, like, I should probably try to mint my music.
Yeah, and you indeed did. So just why don't we just get into it a little bit? So on January 31st, 2020, you minted an
Okay.
NFT called Weg der Zon on Rarible.
Yeah.
And the description of this NFT reads, unique crypto collectible for a deep, mellow, lo-fi house track, released January 8th, 2020, unlocks 3 Bandcamp redeem codes for a direct download plus IPFS hash for FLAC, high quality audio files and cover art. Um, and Rarible had just released their unlockable content feature a few days before you minted Vague der Zon. Um, and so, what sort of first of all, was this the first NFT that you ever minted?
I think so. Yeah. It probably is the first one that I minted. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like it is from that wallet, but I just was curious in case there was
Yeah.
like, what about like, had you collected any NFTs or bought any NFTs before this, or were you just sort of this was your first foray into buying or creating NFTs at all?
I think it was my first yeah, activity on the NFT space. Like, yeah, completely. I don't think I collected anything before. I was just looking at people's transactions. I was looking at I was observing everything, and I thought of, like, hey, just let's try to sell this token, or like put it out and see if it sells. And I remember it was like, I don't know, about $3 worth of ETH at the time.
Yeah.
something like that.
And so, can you so obviously, like I said, you used, well, I don't know if I said it, but you used this unlockable feature for this NFT. So,
Yeah,
um, it kind of makes sense because you couldn't really mint the music file, I assume, at that point. So,
yeah.
is that why you went with the unlockable option, or you saw it and were like, oh, let me try that?
Yeah, I saw it and I was like, okay, I could use this. I want to try to like this looks pretty cool, and I should try to use it for a music NFT. Before that, I was thinking of using like the NFTs had the tags or keys. Like you could add a property on the NFT, and I was thinking of like, okay, I could just add the MP3 hash here, and but that people will have to manually, I guess, go check the hash and listen to the track. So yeah, like having the unlockable feature on Rarible, I saw it and I immediately tested it. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating because, I think the intention was, at least from Rarible's design point of view, is probably that only the owner could hear it. But, and I probably discovered this years ago, but what I did was, if you look at the token URI of this token, you actually can see all of the
Yeah.
IPFS hashes. So it's not even like
Yeah,
secret.
really. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like I realized that like later on I realized like, oh yeah, it's public. It's not even private, but yeah. Um
But
actually, yeah. No, go on.
But but Zadra, this means you created like the first modern music NFT in a way.
I guess like
It's
I remember before minting this, I was studying IPFS, and so I before minting an NFT, I published a track on IPFS, and I didn't mint a token. I just posted the track on IPFS and I shared it on Twitter, and I was using the uh, ENS to point to like point to the website hash, and so people could just listen to it as a website.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess that's a proto NFT experiment. Um, yeah, but
Well,
also like
well, go
I
ahead. Yeah.
remember I remember using IPFS on my computer. Like I was so like excited about this being like decentralized or distributed infrastructure, and so I was seeding the file myself. And I remember that when I first posted these music these music files on IPFS and I share them on Twitter, I would just look at the IPFS app, the desktop app, and look at the graph. You could see like the traffic of packets, and I would just wait for someone to click on it so I would see people getting the file from my from my computer, which was not a good idea because eventually I stopped seeding those files and I lost the hash.
Right. And yeah, I mean that's sort of the unfortunate thing is, and I actually because I'm such a nerd about this and I care about it so much. I actually went to try and pin those hashes myself from Vegdares on, but I realized that it's not pinned anymore. And I was thinking about this today or yesterday. I'm still holding out hope. I feel like there's got to be some way to bring it back. But either way, it's so cool. Um, and so, did you know that for image NFTs that they used IPFS too? So it was just a very logical thing. Like, all right, I'll just use IPFS for an audio file. Like, did you make that connection
Hmm.
or? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I studied a little bit of IPFS, and I was like, okay, I could just use a music file. It supports every kind of file.
yeah. Well, I just love it. I think it's so awesome. And
Thank you.
so a few days later, on February 1st, 2020, you minted a token called the Cybercash Groove on Rarible using the same unlockable feature in the same way.
Yeah.
Um, and you had the IPFS hash in the, token URI, token URI, little did Rarible know. Is there anything you remember about this release? did Vegderzon get collected pretty quickly, and then you minted this one, or like what was going on around these?
So yeah, their song kind of got collected relatively quickly, and I think I even I had a little bit of contact with the person who got it. They wanted it to put it on CryptoVoxels, I think, and this other release, I was being a little bit more intentional about like, okay, let's step it up and try to make a little website for the presentation of this NFT and have a little preview. And I just took a beat I had on the computer. I'm like, okay, let's just take this track and theme that around DeFi. I guess that was kind of the point of it. But also, I saw some people talking about NFTs and licensing, like using NFTs for licensing, and I remember minting this and listing it for 1 ETH and sharing it on Twitter, and it started to get some attention, and I think it was in the same day that it sold, and I was just that was my first, I guess, hyper real experience of like, oh, I made money with music, like significantly. I had like before this, I guess the most amount of money that I made with my music was through streaming. I had a track that was playlisted on Spotify, and it had like 80K streams, and I made about $500. I remember that very well because I used that money to purchase more audio equipment. But the like ETH at the time was like $180, and I was like, I just made that amount of money from just one track. And I remember that like the person who collected this NFT, like I remember that in the description of this NFT, I was trying to give out the rights to the music, like you could just do anything you want with the track. I think someone who collected this was from LexDAO. Do you know LexDAO? Yeah. So they were kind of interested in this side of using NFTs and licensing. So they eventually re-released the track as with they made NFTs of the track in different presentation. Yeah,
that's really interesting. And I kind of want to just read the collection for the Cybercash Groove, because it might be funny to hear back, but I think it's just so cool. Like, this is February 1st, 2020, and the token description says, 2-minute syncopated tech house track inspired by the awesomeness of digital currencies, smart contracts, and the whole community working for the open internet. Unlocks IPFS hash for the full uncompressed track in FLAC format. And it does say the owner of the token also owns the rights of use and distribution. So you can really see your thought process so clearly here.
Yeah.
And so 2 days, or the following day, on February 2nd, you minted 2 more NFTs on Rarible under a new collection title of Lost Tapes. These
Oh
have a
yeah.
similar setup with IPFS hashes as unlockable content. What do you remember about these ones?
So I was kind of like, I guess, a little bit hyped up about having sold the first one, and so I took a couple tracks that I had already released previously. Like these are not completely new tracks or things I was working on at the time, and I just decided to mint them and give them like a little, uh, presentation as well. It was just another experiment of doing the same thing, but using tracks that I had already released before. And so I think those tracks were not on streaming services, so that's why I released those. And I remember that, I remember very well that they got shared. A couple people collected them. I was also experimenting a little bit with the concept of collections, right? So Rarible had collections, and it was like each collection was a different contract, And so I wanted to create a collection that had more than one token. So this is the first one I think I where I created a couple of tokens.
Yeah, definitely. And so, for the other two tracks that we already talked about, it does look like those IPFS pins need to be, or hashes need to be repinned if some expert can help. But I actually realized today that one of the IPFS hashes on the lost tapes is still intact, and I downloaded it. I don't know if you
That's
realize.
awesome.
Yeah, one of them seems like it's not, but one of them is, and I don't know why. But I downloaded it, so it's. I think you can like repair a hash if you have the actual file.
Yes.
Um, you can repin it. So one of them is the alternate track or something. There's like the main one for each, and then there's like a hidden track or something, and
Mm.
that other track is still pinned or somewhere.
That's awesome. I need to check it out because like the the actual like these tracks the original name of these tracks was A Lost Harmony, and you can actually listen to these tracks on Bandcamp on like the Split uh, Bandcamp, and you can find them there. And it even has I renamed the release. It says Lost Harmony EP, and then like it says like in parentheses um, Lost Tapes, so you can listen to them there. But I'm not sure like if you download it from Bandcamp, it would have different metadata and it would not be exactly the same hash. So
Yeah.
that is separate. Yeah. But it's very cool that it's still there. Like it's very old and I probably lost the original file. I yeah, stopped seeing it a while back.
Yeah. And I will say, just for people listening to who just might not know, Split is spelled Zplit. So, and you have a cool logo that you would use for it as well. Um, so, yeah, so you have like four collectors now at this point. Like, it's thinking back, that early on, like that's so cool. And that's something that strikes me about all of your early body of work, all of your NFTs, is you really have such a very wide and broad collector base. So it's pretty awesome. I was kind of like struck by that
Yeah.
today. And
Yeah.
so yeah. Um, so also on that same day, February 2nd, you minted an NFT called Duvet, which is a GIF. And so this one was different than the others. It just in the description it has like an ETH domain link to a page which plays the track and it shows the lyrics for the song. Like, do you remember what was going on with this one? What you were thinking?
Yes, very well. This track is a cover. So this track is a tribute to Serial Experiments Line. Do you know this show, this
I
series?
thought that's what it was. Yeah, I thought I was gonna say yeah. That's what I guessed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is a cover from the opening track of that show, um, by Boa, and I guess I was just like having fun there. I was just experimenting with it, and it's very cool that it's. I didn't see much lane related aesthetics to Ethereum, and so I don't know. I was just having fun there, really. I
Yeah.
thought that like just a little experiment.
Yeah, and on the GIF you have like an ETH logo poster on the wall for the image. Um,
Yeah, I was just really passionate about this because at the time it was niche. At the time it was people were just having fun. I guess this I didn't really expect. I was bullish on Ethereum for sure, um, but I was just passionate about it. Like I don't know. It was just something that I really couldn't talk to anyone in real life about. you know,
yeah.
there was
Yeah.
no one I could talk to about. Like I would talk to them about it, but they will be like, I don't know what's that. And so, yeah. So
I
I guess
yeah.
that's why I kind of picked the lane image and made it a GIF because it's like, yeah, it's just me and my computer connecting with people I don't even know.
Yeah, I love that. And I totally get that too. I mean, that's definitely how I felt too. I was never kind of the person to be like, "Hey, want to talk about crypto?" Like in real life. but but the online sort of like connection of it all is so awesome, though. At the same time. Um, so moving ahead a couple days, you minted a new token called Blue Disk using a new Rarible collection title called Unreleased. Um,
Mm.
and this was going back, like the description reads, a unique digital disc with two, and I like that phrase you use, digital disc, with two super mysterious atmospheric tracks. And you have the .split .eth link for the track, but it says unlocks IPFS hash for audio files and cover art. The owner of the token also gets the rights of attribution, distribution, and use. Any thoughts about this and this new one and the new unreleased collection? Was it just a similar thing to what you were doing with the others?
Yeah, it was another iteration of what I was doing, and I probably picked music that I was not planning to release anywhere. So I think so. I think that was, yeah, it was just another iteration. The concept of the digital disc was something that kind of just clicked, because I've been collecting music CDs for a while, and like NFTs as collectibles, as music collectibles. Just this, you know, conceptualizing as a digital disc was a thing that I found really cool.
Yeah, I love it. And I think another thing that's worth pointing out too is like you're doing this in like early February 2020, and from my memory, like m- almost at the end of the year, almost 2021, people barely even could grasp the idea of music NFTs even like a year later. They many people did, like, especially as you get into 2021, but like, when you were doing this, like most people in the crypto space or even NFT space probably would have been like, what are you talking about? Right? I mean, it
Yeah.
was it was bizarre how like my memory was like you would tell people and they'd be like in like mid 2020 they'd be like, music, like what are you talking about? um so um going ahead, like on the 12th of February, you minted a track, Analog Infection, which also had an unlockable mechanism like the others. But this one was interesting, I think, because you just put an IPFS hash openly in the NFT description. So you just bypassed, at least from what I can tell, you don't even have to go to the URI anymore. Am I correct about that?
I think so. I don't remember this one very well. I remember that I it was a this NFT was a remix, not the track but the artwork. Like the artwork was
Yeah.
another NFT that I collected, and I thought that this animation was really cool, and so I kind of remixed it and created I attached a music track there, but I guess I was just minting for fun, I guess. But yeah, I think I don't remember very well, but it probably has the IPFS hash in public.
Yeah, it from what I can tell, it does. If you look it up on OpenSea, it just says it right there in the description. So
Sure.
I think the difference is you put like the MP3, but in the unlockable, you get the high quality, which is a common thing. So maybe that's what you were thinking about.
Oh yeah, yeah, probably because like I think my thought process at the time was like, it's kind of weird to purchase something without knowing how, like, the full thing. It's
Yeah.
like you should probably let people just listen to the track and collect it if they actually want it. Kind of like if you would go on Bandcamp and you will listen to something, you want to the high quality audio files, you just purchase it. So I think that was my thought process.
Yeah, I love this. I love hearing you talk about this. Like, it just is so awesome to me to hear how you were just making music NFTs in February 2020. Um, and so going ahead a little bit, the next one is kind of interesting too. And sorry, I'm going to go through like every one for the first couple of months.
It's
Um,
okay.
so on March 5th, 2020. you added a
Mm,
track to the unreleased collection on your Rarible contract called Rolla Kappa. And so this one, it
mm.
didn't have IPFS hashes, but it did have links to the Audius and SoundCloud for these songs. Um, so what were you thinking? Do you remember this one? And like, when did you discover Audius?
Probably at the time, I was never that interested or attracted on audio. So I just thought it was like, SoundCloud is kind of dying, and so it's cool that there is like an alternative to SoundCloud. Um, and so I don't know if I don't know if this is a track that I minted on Scent. I was just testing stuff. I was just like testing different ways to mint, and I guess that's what happened. I included links instead of IPFS hashes.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny because back in that time, especially, I feel like it was much more common for apps to sort of like use other protocols and stuff. Like it was much more collaborative. I feel like nowadays it's sort of like much more siloed. I don't even know if that's like entirely fair, but like I just remember like Maker's Place, they used like civic identity for like identity verification. I feel like apps tried to like
Mm.
use other products in the ecosystem. So maybe it was sort of like, oh, this new thing, like I'll try to use it. It's part of the ecosystem. Um, I did not realize Audius was around then, so that's kind of interesting to me. Um, so around this time, the same day, March 5th through 10th, there was a series of tokens I noticed created called unlock key Vegderzon. And these appear to be for an app
Huh.
called Unlock Protocol. Do you remember these at all? Do you remember like what the purpose of these was?
Yeah, I don't remember about Vector Sun, but like um, I remember using Unlock Protocol. Yes, I remember that I was testing it. It was quite accessible from a web development standpoint. Like for the level of knowledge that I had, I was like, I can use this to make a kind of subscription model for my music, and so I was testing it. Those probably were the just test tokens. I was trying to um, implement the unlock protocol on my website,
Mm,
so I could, yeah, like maybe it could probably it would unlock content afterwards. But yeah, I was testing unlock protocol at the time. I thought it was pretty cool.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and so around this time as well, on March 11th, an audio-visual piece called Hexa D&B was minted on Maker's Place. And this was a collaboration between you and the artist Van's Design. Was this the first time that you guys had
Mm.
worked together? How did you
Yes.
connect?
Yes, I think it was through Twitter, and I remember seeing Vance Design works on like different places, but I thought like I don't remember exactly how we started talking. Probably through Twitter, and I remember that I wanted to get my music on some of these exclusive platforms like Super Rare and Maker's Place. And so I think I probably approached Vance for a collaboration, and he was yeah, excited to try something like that. So yeah, I think that was our first collaboration.
Yeah. Um, and so the context, for me, it's kind of interesting because the timing of this anyway. Um, so I think like March 2020 was when the trend towards, if you look at 2020, if 2020 in hindsight, like a big trend was like audio visual NFTs. And it was kind of like,
Yeah.
like more like short form, sort of like visual art with like a, 10-second, 15-second music clip with it. Um, and so I remember, like in my research, I know that Maker's Place, they started to support MP4s. They were the first ones to do that in summer 2019. But then Known Origin added support for video minting in like February 2020, and then Super Rare followed shortly thereafter in early March. And you can kind of like see that time, like right after Super Rare did that, there was like kind of an explosion of audiovisual pieces, and you guys were pretty like right on that. So do you remember that at all? Do you kind of remember feeling that people were starting to do this?
Yes, I actually uh I was checking the DMs with Van's design, and I found the first message that I sent to Van, and it was like, "Hello Van, how are you? I wanted to propose your collaboration if you ever wanted to create an MP4 with an original score on Super Rare. I do some sound design. I really love your art." So yeah, I reached to Van because like Van was minting on these platforms, and I thought, yeah, MP4 is in the message. Like I remember MP4 was a people were doing that at the time. So I think I submitted like to Super Rare, and I got rejected. So I thought about collaborating with someone would be cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, if we think about the timing of this, March 2020, that was like when the COVID shutdowns began. Like, it was,
Yeah.
how did that affect you? I mean, everybody has their stories, but like, um, what was things like for you at that point?
So I remember that very well. I was in college and I was studying as well, and then, like I was doing these things on the side, and so I I got suspended from work and college. Like classes switched to be online,
Yeah,
and after a while, like everyone thought it was just 2 weeks, and it extended, and
right.
I just got indefinitely suspended from work, and so I was just at home, and that's what I remember. And also, I remember that there was like a market sellout at the time, and I remember having a DeFi position. Like I would try to put most of the money that I would like could save into ETH, and then like borrow DAI against it, and so use the DAI for like expenses. And so during that market uh, sellout, I almost got liquidated on Compound. I had to ask a friend. Like I only there's one childhood friend who was into crypto even before me, and we were having talks about like DeFi and stuff at the time, and I asked him like, can you let me a little bit of DAI so I can just avoid liquidation on Compound, and he did like sent me some funds, and I was able
Wow.
to avoid liquidation. I don't know what exact date, but it was in March 2020. I remember that, and yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, it makes
Eventually
sense.
recovered, and I could pay him back and like keep my ETH.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of amazing that that's how good this tech is that it can survive events like that. And yeah, that's really interesting. And so it seems like you kind of kept moving though, because on March 24th, 2020, you deployed a new contract called Split Digital Discs on Mintbase. And the first number of tokens on this contract are editions of the Split release called Bedroom Korg Selection. And the token description reads, "This is a digital collectible that represents Bedroom Korg Selection EP by Split, a 4-track experimental album with repeating sequences from the Korg monologue synthesizer, heavily inspired by 90s breakbeat, techno, and trance." And
Yeah.
so it's interesting, the metadata for these tokens, it appears to be on a centralized like Firebase server, I think, and it has links to the Split Bandcamp page as well as a recording of the EP on YouTube. So, can you tell us a little bit about like the story of these tokens and how you became connected with Mintbase for this?
Yes. So I think I was working on like like this EP was something that came out of listening to AFX a lot, and I was able to get an analog, my first analog synth, the Korg monologue. And so that's where this EP came out from. But I thought MintSpace was an interesting NFT platform, and I think this was my first experiment with it. So it doesn't contain any audio or IPFS hashes. It just points to links. It just points to the to YouTube recording, and maybe to some of my socials, I think. Yeah, I made several of these, thinking I could probably sell them, but I thought like this is not that cool, because like it doesn't have like it just points to links. It's just a kind of like an archive, but it's not really. You could listen to it on OpenSea, because OpenSea would allow you to play the YouTube link on site, I think, as an embed.
Yeah, they used to. It doesn't anymore. Actually, it sort of has like
Hmm.
a but the image is there in the metadata. I have one of these tokens, and so do you remember like how you chose? All your previous mints for the most part had been like one of ones, and so was there a particular? I mean, you described it as a digital collectible. So is that really kind of how you were thinking about it? Like you just decided to do some additions for this one?
Yes. I think. Oh yeah, I remember MintBase had. You could select how many editions you wanted for a token. So that I think that was the first time that I was like, okay, let's just like input a number here and just mint several in one transaction. I think that's what happened. I didn't have to like mint several. You know, for I make different transactions for each token. I just made one, and it printed several tokens. I was just testing that, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, it is still cool because, you were making this token, you're making a digital collectible for an EP that you made. So, um, yeah, it's still to me an interesting artifact. Um, and so, let's see. Yeah, around this time, so you minted these tokens on March 24th, and on the same day, March 24th was when the second collab with Van's Design was minted on Super Rare Retrowave. And this track is a personal favorite of mine. It is literally one of my favorite NFTs of all time. And I remember, like, I don't know, around that time, like later 2020, probably when I discovered it, I just loved the music and the vibe with the visuals. Um, and a couple days later, Van minted another one too, another collab with you called Isometric, and I think that music is a track from Bedroom Chord Selection, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you remember about this like second wave of collabs with Van's Design?
I I think these were like these were more intentional collaborations. Vance was interested in doing reactive, like visually reactive, audio reactive visuals. So yeah, that was something that it was he wanted to do, and it's also one of my favorites. Like isometric is also one of my favorites. Like the way it reacts to the track is really awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to go back to those messages with Van, but at the time that is the thing that happened. Like he wanted to do some audio reactive visuals, and so he did. And I think that was the first time that we collaborated and minted on Super Rare, and we had like it was collected by someone. These tracks were collected, and um, he split the revenue with me at the time. I
Yeah.
remember this. I'm trying to go back to the messages, but
Well, I know that one of the collectors is Jim McNellis, who goes by Jimmy, who he's
Yeah.
the legendary guy, creator of Avastars, really great guy. And he also holds like one of the lost tapes NFTs that you made as well. I'm pretty sure. But like I said,
Yes.
it just kind of looking at all these tokens, I did notice that like yeah, they're all collected. They're all in these random wallets, and it's pretty awesome. But so from there, so that was like, what was that, late March. And then from there, it looks like there was a bit of a break in activity, at least from what I can tell. And things picked back up on June 10th when you minted Unpopular Forever, which was minted on, this was minted on the Zplit digital discs contract where the Bedroom Korg Selection EP NFTs had been minted. And but this was very soon after Mintbase launched full audio NFT minting, which was this was the first time that musicians officially had the ability to tokenize audio files as we think of them today, not by using a back you know underground way like you were doing. Um, and so uh, I guess in this sense, Unpopular Forever was like your first modern music NFT, like in an official sense. Um,
Yes.
can you tell us like any memories you have of this time leading up to this release? Like, were you waiting for Mintbase to build these features before minting this? What were you thinking?
Yes. Yes. I was waiting for someone to build it. I was waiting for someone to finally do it. I was having some. I think I was talking with Nate from Mintbase at the time. Yeah, and I discussed about this idea of like allowing audio files. And I remember that from this when Mintbase allowed uh, audio files for support, there was the audio NFT hashtag was kind of something you could find these NFTs. Like that was like we wouldn't call them music NFTs. It was just like audio NFTs. Like we could support audio files and just you could play them on OpenSea. Like OpenSea also kind of added support for that, I guess. And so
Yeah,
I was excited about it, and I was like, I need to mint something. And also that track, like Unpopular Forever, is one of my favorite tracks that I've done. Has very interesting mixing technique there.
yeah. I if I'm remembering the track correctly, it's you do this thing that you do, in a lot of your tracks, or like you do it sometimes, and I really like it. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, you do a line that's kind of like syncopated, and then you add another layer to it, and then when the beat comes in, it's sort of like is against the other line, so it has like a really cool rhythmic effect. Am I like getting that right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I made I really like counter melodies and counter melodies, and also I kind of used vinyl sampled drums for that track, so they sound a little bit different. They don't sound as compressed and as uh, usual. They sound a little bit unusual. They sound more dynamic. Um, I think I used a chord monologue on that track. Um, I was very influenced by Aphex Twin at the time, and I sampled a Richard James interview on that track. I was very happy with that track, and when Mintbase added support for the audio track, that was the first thing that I minted, and it also
yeah,
got collected fairly quickly. Yeah.
yeah. And so, that was early June 2020. And then for the rest, so between that time through like June through August, through early August 2020, you minted quite a number of tracks on this contract. So it seems like it was a pretty productive time for you. Like, do you remember what the vibe was like from your perspective? Like, I mean, this is when I started to mint my music, and for me, I remember it was a very exciting time in the space, and I think that Mintbase launching that feature for audio NFTs, it just really injected. It was like a real catalyst, I think, for things at that time. Like, what do you remember about that time?
Yes, I was very excited, and the fact that it had traction, that people would engage with that, and I saw other artists minting. I remember Vandal. I think also DAO Records started minting on Mintbase as well. Um,
Yeah.
there was a sense of community. There was a sense of like support, and that really hyped me up. I guess that's why I was making minting my music. I thought this is just a positive feedback loop. You make something, and people like it, and you get a reward, and then it's like, okay, just keep doing it, right? So yeah, I think that's the thing that was happening at the time.
Yeah. And so one thing I noticed that was kind of interesting, I don't even know if you remember this, but on August 4th, it looks like you minted an ERC 1155 token on Rarible called 01demofolder.7z. And the description reads, this NFT unlocks a password for a .7z file with 10 demos and unfinished or unreleased tracks. It's all fun stuff, about 20 minutes of sound. You can do whatever you want with these. And it looks like there's 100 fungible editions of this token. Do you remember this? Do you remember what inspired you to try it out? It seems like this was may have been the first ERC 1155 token you minted.
Yes, I probably I probably was just also testing the RC 1155 format, but also like I thought of like mm, I like the concept of NFTs unlocking something or having some quote unquote utility, and so I thought of like this is not a like a conventional way to do it, but like this is the kind of way I thought of doing. So yeah, I almost forgot about that one. Yeah, you're right. I don't think it got collected or anyone bought it. I'm not sure at the
Yeah, I think that
time.
yeah, I think that wallet still holds 100 of them if I saw correctly. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see that you were still thinking, like, even though you started minting, like, audio NFTs, in the modern sense, like, you were still sort of thinking about the other use cases. And that, you also, soon after this, on August 5th, like a day later, you started minting on a new contract called Distributed Web Selection. And you minted
Hmm.
two tracks on this contract: Altruista Egoista and Rhythm Stealer. But
Hmm.
these were not like audio NFTs like you had been minting on Mintbase. It looks like they might have been unlockable NFTs. Do you remember these tokens?
Yes, I remember a little bit about this. It was, I guess, hmm. I kind of went back to these are probably writable tokens.
That was my guess. It seems like it.
Yes, I think they are, and these tracks was just I don't know, just a concept like the concept of like altruism, egoism was something that was in my mind because of the nature of crypto. There is it's a financial system in a way, and it brings up the ways people can act or think about money. And I guess I was just thinking about those things, and I minted that, but I almost forgot about those too. Yeah, you're right. Um, I don't know what kind of format I used for, like, in what way it included the music. I don't remember very well.
Yeah, I mean, if you used the Rarible contract, and you were I assume you were trying to use the unlockable feature for those.
Hmm.
So I guess we could ask the people who hold those tokens, but if they can unlock anything from it. But well, maybe I guess I didn't look at the token URI. Maybe they fixed it by then. But
Hmm.
um, it's just kind of interesting. You were still sort of like experimenting with different types of releases, and that is really a through line in your sort of body of work as well going forward. We'll get into it, but so on August 11th, you minted the last mint on this contract, the split digital discs contract called Penta.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was minted on the same day you started minting on a new contract called Split Music using a new wallet as well. And the token ticker for this contract, the new contract, is MP3, which I liked. And this first track you minted on the new contract with the new wallet was Identidad. Was there a particular reason you decided to start with a fresh wallet and contract for minting at this time?
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember the Penta token. It was themed around Ethereum having like fifth anniversary since it launched, and using a new wallet and creating a new contract was something I did because of this. There's always this desire to start over of mine. It's weird, but when something feels cluttered, I just want to erase everything and clear everything and start again. That's, I don't know why that happens every now and then, but I guess this was something I was like, okay, let's just start again, and but start in a more intentional and clean way. And so I think that's what I did. And the track Identidad is you know, uh, um, it's identity in Spanish. So it was this is the first track. So it's this is my new wallet, and this is the wallet that I'm going to use for minting music. That was kind of my thought process when I created that.
Yeah, interesting. Um, And so, for the next month after this, like August 2020, you mentioned a number of audio NFTs on this contract, and there's just so much good music. Like, I really love the music you were making at this time. Um, One interesting mint on this new contract was created on September 8th, 2020. And this is when you brought in the producer Taneki to mint a track called Most Wanted on the contract as
Hmm.
a guest. Can you tell us about how that came about?
Yeah. So, oh, by the way, the ticker of this contract, I named it MP3 because I remember that Mintbase had a file limit, like a size limit, and so you could only mint MP3s with good quality. So yeah,
Okay.
but yeah. So Kaneki is a friend of mine who is it's I know him from very early on in my music journey as a music producer, from those Facebook groups, 2016, 17, I was having chats with the Neki, and told him about this is very cool, this is very interesting, you should try this out. I could you know help you out, set a wallet, and try to mint. I don't know if do you know if this token was minted on my from my wallet?
That's a good question. And I can probably find that pretty easily. Let me see if I can find it.
Because my if I remember well, Mintbase allowed you to give permission to other wallets to mint. So I think that's what I did. I had my contract, but you could Mintbase, they had a function, so you can also give I guess permission for another address or wallet to mint. And so I think that's what happened. I'm not really sure how it went, or if
Yeah,
you could,
I
or
am
if I
looking at
minted it.
Etherscan.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at Etherscan at the moment, and um, I I think it says from the Split wallet. Um,
Okay.
I, I have to look at it a little closer, but it's hard to tell at a
Yeah.
quick glance.
Okay.
But
Like
yeah,
there was some kind of function in Mintbase where you could either send the token to another wallet on Mint, or something about that, or give permission for someone to mint on it. And so I think I saw something like that, and I thought I could, you know, um, you know, ask my friend to mint something, and so he did. So he prepared like a cool visual and minted this track, and he wasn't really that much into Web3 and crypto, but he had some experience with it. Like he had some wallets and exchanges, exchange accounts, so he was a little bit familiar with it. But yeah, that was the first time I was like trying to collaborate with someone that was not in the like it was not crypto native, but it was a good friend, a good peer, music peer.
Yeah. No, and it's a great track too. I collected it. So um,
Oh yeah, I think you collect that one, and also like
I
Tanek
did.
is just very talented producer, very
Yeah.
talented and very good audio engineer. Like he's amazing.
Yeah, he actually mastered some of my music at some point too. Um,
Wow.
and so, yeah, no, it's really interesting that you brought him on to your contract and everything. So moving forward a little bit, so we're in like mid-September 2020, and on September 19th of that time, you minted a set of 10 editions for a track called Vonker's Theme. Can you tell us about the story behind these editions?
Yeah. So Van was collaborating with Meta Factory. Do you know this about this collaboration, Downker?
Yes, I do. Van's design, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Van asked me to do like commission me for a track. Like he wanted me to create a theme track for this project, and so he gave me some references to the music he kind of wanted to get, and I was like, okay, I can approach something like that. And it wasn't exactly like the end result wasn't exactly what he was expecting, but he was happy with it, and so yeah, like Vance told me how many editions to mint, and so and yeah, it was a commission actually. Like this was a commission, so that's what happened, and like this ended up being kind of used as the as an asset for the branding of Bunker. Like some clothing came out of that project, I think, with Meta Factory. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And something I'm wondering now, like, did you make the who made the visuals for those NFTs?
Oh, Van. I didn't make
Okay,
it. Yeah,
it's a
it
cool
was
design.
Van. Yeah,
And
you
actually,
could
now that
tell
I
it's
think about
Van.
it, yeah, yeah, no, it makes sense. Um, like, did you, for a lot of these earlier tokens, like, did you make the art for them, or like, what was your usual? A lot of them have like a disc sort of shape, design with different, imagery on the discs. Like, did you usually do this, or like, what was your process for the covers?
Yes, I would make them myself. I had I have some image editing knowledge, just enough to do something like that, and so I kind of sticked with that.
Yeah. And so you were continuing to mint one of one tracks otherwise on this newer contract, but on October 10th, 2020, you minted an addition of five tracks, or addition of five for a track called Tethra. Um,
Hmm.
was there a particular reason you like decided to do a multi edition, or were you just breaking things up?
Yeah, I think Tetra was an experiment that was also again like trying to include. I think Mintbase added a feature that allowed you to add multiple things and among multiple files, and one of those supported files was PDF. So I think these tokens were intended to contain a PDF file with, I guess, the license statement, or like, yeah, like you could use this track for, similar to the very first music NFTs that I was doing, like giving out the rights to the music, but it was contained also with a PDF. And I'm not sure if that's on our wave or it was only something you could only access through Mintbase. I don't remember. But yeah, I remember Tetra was that experiment because I used a I guess like a licensing format that someone from the crypto space came up with. I don't know if it was Lexel or something, but yeah, that's the reason why it has multiple editions.
Gotcha. Interesting. And so, I think it's hard for people to it's harder for people to really get the perspective that we had back then. And, I think back in 2020, when Super Rare was kind of king and like the curated platforms. I mean, so Nifty Gateway was coming up as well, but like one of ones were
Hmm.
considered really prestigious. So like, you know, it's kind of striking that you released so many one of one music NFTs in 2020. Like, did you think about it in a particular way in terms of supply? Like one of ones versus editions, or like, do you remember, or did it just kind of feel like you just viewed it from like, yeah, the more scarce, the more sort of like special it is, or
Yeah, I think one-on-ones were very cool. Like the concept of the NFT, the RC721, and you know just having one item per work was interesting. Like it made sense to me at the time. Yeah, that was I think I was picking up from Super Rare and these platforms. Um, yeah, I think so.
yeah,
I was just thinking
it's
this Carcer is better.
yeah, it's funny because like that's exactly how it was for me too. I literally I was like in early 2020, it was like, oh, the ERC 721 standard, like this means you can create a one of one. Like just the idea that you could create a single edition was mind blowing to me. And it's kind of strange to me that like if you come into this people coming into the space now, like for them, they're probably more inclined to create like, a, a huge amount of editions or something. It kind of seems like that's more normal now.
Yeah.
It's totally subjective, I guess. I mean, I guess supply and demand is not really subjective ultimately, but it's just funny how like we were shaped by sort of our surroundings maybe at that point. But yeah, anyway. Um, so there was one mint I noticed that you created on October 30th, 2020, called Overclock Acid. And you it looks like you burned it though. It looked like it might have been
Hmm.
like an album cover or something. Like, do you remember this? Do you remember like why you might have
I
opted to not do it?
I I don't remember actually. I probably was probably was something that I didn't like or I made a mistake and I burned it. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. I just noticed it because like, on OpenSea you can just see all the tokens that were minted from that wallet. So
Yeah.
anyway, I was just kind of curious. And so, moving ahead a little bit. So the last track that you minted on the Split music contract in 2020 was a track called Zaya, which was released on November 23rd, 2020. And then a couple days later, on November 30th, there was another Split and Vans Design audiovisual collaboration minted on Super Rare called Septima. And it looks like this was
Hmm.
the last time you guys collaborated. Am I right about that?
Yes. Yeah, you're correct. We had planned for another collaboration, but that never happened. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was our last one.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Just all those pieces you guys did are really bring me back to that time. I really like all of those pieces. And so from here, like getting into late 2020, and I love how we've been talking for like over an hour and we're still in 2020. Like there's so many things to talk about. And I really feel like to me, the year 2020 is so underrated in terms of music. Like people don't realize like how much energy there was from the small community that there was.
Yeah.
But on so on December 18th, 2020, you minted the Split EP called Phantom on Known Origin.
Mm.
And this
Oh
was an
yeah.
interesting release because if I'm getting it correctly, it seemed like you were trying to tokenize a physical CD. Like that seemed to be the kind of idea behind this release. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I was trying to do that.
Yeah. And so it had the audio for the full EP though. It was like an MP4, I think, but it was like
Yes.
the image was the CD, a physical CD. and I ended up collecting this NFT, and you sent me the physical CD, and I still have it and everything. Um, so, do you can you tell us like the story behind like what inspired you to do it this way? If yeah.
Yeah. So I I thought that the idea of doing a physical, to include something that it just wasn't. It was a representation of something physical, right? Like physical media is very cool, and so I was like thinking about like, oh, I have these old digital discs conceptually on chain. I remember buying these uh, CDs that had a vinyl appearance, and so I'm like trying to trying to have that like portray this feeling of a physical piece or yeah, physical media, a physical item, and like put it on chain. So yeah, I was thinking about like just tokenizing it or representing something physical on chain.
Digital.
Um, yeah, yeah.
No, yeah.
Digital. Yeah, I remember this term.
It's just kind
Digital.
of a funny term, but that's what it is, really, technically.
Yeah.
Um, One thing to note about this release is the structure of it is the entire EP is contained on this one single NFT. All four tracks are presented as one long MP4. Um, so, versus like for most of your other mints, it was like split up in by track. So, like, was there a particular reason you did it this way, or is that because you were like tokenizing the full CD?
It was because I was tokenizing the full CD, and when you put a CD on like on a record player, it will play the entire thing continuously. So that was the reasoning. I didn't want to mint. Though I didn't know about a way to mint several tracks in the same. Like I was just yeah. I just thought it was better or more practical, but also kind of fitted the concept of being a digital disc and physical disc.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. And so it looks like if jumping ahead into the new year of 2021, it looks like your next mint was on February 2nd, 2021. And that
Hmm.
was almost exactly a year from when you first started experimenting with minting music.
Yeah.
It was like end of January 2020. And so here we are a year later, and you minted a track called Proxy Mix One as
Hmm.
token 277 on the Zora Media contract, which was catching fire at the time. A lot of people were starting to get excited about that. And you were pretty early to mint on that contract. Do you remember what you were thinking about at that time? What inspired you to mint on Zora?
Yes, Sora was very exciting because it kind of Sora had a very different approach to its design compared to other crypto platforms. Like they were kind of experimenting, innovating in this design space, and so I thought it was pretty cool. And I thought that they had support for music files, for audio files. So I really wanted to get in. I thought the design of the platform was really cool at the time. It now kind of looks like Instagram, but like at the time it was cleaner, and it was yeah, it was still focused around RC721, and so the moment I had the chance to mint on it on Zora, I took the chance and minted that track.
Yeah, I totally like that's exactly how I felt too, and I minted a track as well, like pretty close to when you did that too. And you know, I totally agree. Like Zora seemed to support music minting in like a pure and attractive way that like no other platform really provided at the time, which is like, what you just said. But um, when you think back on it, like Zora really they helped that like, media contract in early 2021 really helped onboard the next wave of music artists that would drive the space forward for the next couple of years. Like so many people who are household names now came on board because of Zora, really, at that time.
Yeah.
And so, like, if June 2020 the launch of audio NFT minting on Mintbase was like one of the first major catalysts for pure audio minting, then maybe we can think of like the Zora media contract in early 2021 as like the next major catalyst maybe for minting music. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. Um, your next release, from what I can tell, was on March 21st, 2021, and you released a audiovisual piece called "I've Never Been So Confused in My Life" on known known origin. Is there anything to say about the story behind this piece? It's really beautiful. It's like the music is really,
So
it's a really nice piece.
yeah, yeah. It was a period of time where a lot of things were happening in my life. Like, um, yeah. So by the end of 2020, I kind of dropped out of college, and because like it was all online classes, and I was not performing not very well, and also I think it was around this time where I was having trouble with my family because I started to change my gender, and so I think it was at a time where I was starting to move out, and yeah, I minted. It was a very small loop track, and I just wanted to mint something, so that's what I did. I think
Yeah,
that's where the name of the track comes from.
yeah. No, it's a beautiful track. So thanks for sharing the background behind it. And it looks like the piece, like the way it works on known origin is like it's minted when it's collected. And so it looks like it was collected on April 10th. So like, I don't know, about a month later from when it was first posted.
Hmm.
Um, and the space was pretty like on fire at this point, like or like in a good way, I guess. But like, um, and so I mean, what do you remember about this time, like in the NFT space? Like, I just remember it being pandemonium. Like, it was just so hard to break through at that time.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, 2021. I guess I don't want to look at the price chart, but I think Ethereum was having more traction, right? And
Yeah,
so I think it was also partially driven by NFTs, and so yeah, it was an exciting time. It was a time where I was so excited, and I had so much faith in this that I was able to take risks, and like in my life. So yeah, it was very cool to connect with other people all the time as well online.
yeah,
That's what I remember about those days.
yeah, absolutely. And so the following month, on May 20th, 2021, the Split Compact Loop EP was minted on the Zora Media contract. And I love this EP. And again, I feel like I'm repeating, I'm a broken record, but I bid on it and I became the collector of it. Um, and I love that EP. And it looks like that the Compact Loop EP was the first major Split release of 2021. Based on based on the description of the token, it seems like it was a pretty transformational time in your life. So, is there like, what can you tell us about this EP and how it came about?
Yeah. Um, so this was at a time where I was kind of shedding apart my identity, and I was having conflict with my family, and I dropped out of college, and I was just crypto was everything I had, and everything I was putting faith into, and my music, and so um, I moved out. I had to, and I think I even made a post on Twitter about this, thanking people thanking several people who had supported me in the past, and yeah, just deciding to do this full time and committing to it. And yeah, I moved out. And so that EP came out of that period of time where I was living on my own for the first time, and um, just making music a little bit for fun. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was reaching the end of Split by there, but at that time.
Right. And so we'll kind of, it kind of ties into the next thing really, which, a few months later, there was one final mint on the Split music contract, the one that you were minting on a lot in 2020. And there was one final track minted on that contract on July 21st, 2021 called Path Error.
Hmm.
And I seem to recall talking to you about this track because I just really liked it a lot. That one in particular, I just like it. Just sounds like something that I would do, like myself. So I'm like, this is
Hmm.
just so cool. Um,
Hmm.
so like, this is quite a delay from minting on this contract. So what were you thinking about, like adding this track to this contract?
So, I think that track came out of um, the, something happened using crypto that it made me lose a lot of money, and I was stuck on that, like, emotionally. I was I was yeah, just worried, and I felt like, oh, I should not have taken that risk. I should not have done this. I think I staked a token and like it went down, and lost a lot of money there. And so I think that track came out of that, and also it was a period of time where I was like not feeling super comfortable with myself and some decisions I've made. So I think that's why I remember you reaching out to me and being interested in this token, and I wanted to keep it for myself because of the context around it.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it's a really special token. And um pretty soon, like a week later, I noticed that you minted a track on the Zora media contract called Hot Sun Soda. Do you remember this one?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was another, I don't know, fun track I did, and I wanted to mint on Sora, so just did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one too. I recommend people just go listen to these tracks. Um, you also did another one pretty soon after, in August 2nd, 2021. You minted um, Aurora State on Known Origin, which
Oh
was,
yeah.
yeah, it wasn't collected until like August 24th. So that was like the official mint date. But any memories about that one?
Yeah, so that period of time, I kind of picked up a little bit of painting. And so the cover art of that track is
Oh.
a painting I did on the kitchen. It was like that period of time. Uh, I was, I had some friends, but I was spending a lot of time alone and away from my family. And I was online. And yeah, I think Aurora State was like the sound of this track kind of encapsulates what it felt to be at peace sometimes, feeling just, yeah, just present,
Yeah, and
especially in the early mornings.
yeah. And that's so cool to know that you created the image for that too. Like I remember I was thinking that it's such a nice image, so that's really cool. Um,
Thank you.
and so from what I can tell, the last NFT minted under the Split moniker was an EP called Interface, minted on, it was
Oh,
in mid September 2021, and it was auctioned as a part of the official MCon collection and had a physical CD component as well. Am I right about this? Like, can you tell us the story behind this one?
oh yeah. Okay. So, uh, so okay. I remember that I was committing to making music full time and committing to crypto as well. And I remember that after this financial hit, I thought I should use my funds that I still have to go to Ethereum related conference. And so I went to MCon, the first edition, I think, 2021, the MCon 2021. And so I remember uh, um, this CD, this release is kind of like a compilation, like has music that I had previously minted, and it had a few new tracks. Um, and then these were something that I was like, I knew that on MCon there were going to be some side events and there were going to be some art auctions, and I thought like maybe I should bring this, and try to submit it as something that could be auctioned. And yeah, so the story around MCon was wild. Like it was my first time getting to know people that I've been interacting with online, and it
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
hyper real experience. And also, it was at a time where you know I was already, you know, I I started to change my gender, and it had peak dysphoria. Like it was it was I was very socially awkward at that event, and it was just hyper real to see people like Kevin Owoki or like Austin Griffin. I met Julian from Unlock Protocol as well, and another
Yeah.
collector, Peter Pan. Um, it was such a socially awkward experience for me, but it was also very welcoming. And yeah, it was a wild experience. I even DJ'd at one of those side events, and so you may find the recording of that DJ set somewhere on SoundCloud. But it
Yeah,
was at a
yeah.
time where I was like I was going by they them pronouns, and I was not yet on hormones, and it was like so awkward socially.
That's awesome though. That's cool that it seems like it was like a positive experience overall though.
Yeah, it was awkward, but like some people were really kind. Peter Pan was very kind to me that there, and yeah, people were kind, and
Yeah,
it
that's
was
really
a
great
very
to
good
hear.
experience. Yeah, Julian as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And so it seems like this is the point that you retired the Split moniker and began to release music as Xedra. Is that right? Is that sort of was that sort of the point at which you turned things over?
Yes. I was kind of like in between of like, how do I even present myself to people? I met Jeremy from Catalog there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I met him in person, and like I was like, I don't go by this name anymore, but like this is my ETH address, and this is like what I've been doing for the past couple of years. But I'm thinking of changing my name, and so Jeremy, I think when I was onboarded to Catalog, I had, you know, um, I was releasing music as Xedra now. So yeah, um, that experience was kind of like a weird in between uh, transitioning.
Yeah. And that really the timing of that makes so much sense because, soon afterwards on November 2nd, you minted a track called BIOS on catalog.works.
Mm-hmm.
And so so I guess that translated that to that then you were onboarded to catalog
Mm-hmm.
and that was your first release as Zedra, right?
Yes, that is right. Yes, and I
Yeah.
think you also own that one, right?
I I do own that one as well. I'm sorry if I'm greedy.
No, not at all. Like, thank you
I'm going
for
through
collecting all of
I'm
it.
going through this discussion being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so greedy. I have so many of your NFTs." But I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Um, so I just want to pause for a sec. We've been going for quite a while, so like, do you want to pause at all? Like, do you want to take a break, or how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm having fun. And I have free time. Don't worry. I'm good.
Cool, cool. Cool.
Yeah, but
Because
thank you, by the way. Like those NFTs in that period of time was very important, and like the support I got was just generous and abundant, and I'm grateful for everyone that was part of it, including you. So thank you for collecting those tracks.
no, absolutely. I just really believe in what you have done, and so no, absolutely my pleasure, and just so many good memories from all these things. It's awesome, and I don't think we've never really like we've kept in touch like over the years, but we've never really had like a conversation like this until now, probably, right?
Yeah, yeah, very fun,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah. No, it is. Um, so something I noticed on so going towards the end of the year of 2021, so on December 29th, 2021, on
Mhm.
Twitter, you made mention of trying to get an arpeggi.io pass.
Hmm.
Did you ever end up doing that? Did you ever mint on Arpeggi?
I didn't mint, but I got the pass, and I immediately got offers like for it. But I didn't mint on RPG, but I used the platform. I don't think I minted a track there. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
awesome, but I don't think I actually finished the track there and minted it.
yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious. And then a couple days later, on December 31st, 2021, you released an audiovisual collaboration with the artist Czech called Love, Memory, Loss.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
this piece was minted on the Zora Media contract. Can you tell us the story behind this one?
yeah. So I think Sek Sek from her name. Yeah, Sek and I were mutual fans. Like we liked each other's work, and like she's a visual artist, and I make music, and she was we like the same kind of things. And um, I remember that we were both into Ghost in the Shell, and we wanted to create a collaboration. And I don't remember. I think I proposed the collaboration to her. So yeah, we created this, and we like she wanted to list it for 1 ETH, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Like at this time, I think the NFT market was kind of slowing down, like a little bit, but anyways, I was happy to do that, and it was a very good, very fun collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I really like the combination of both of your work in it. Um, and so, fast forwarding a little bit from here, getting into 2022, around like May, it looks like you started minting on a new contract called Xedra Media.
Hmm.
What were you thinking here? Were you just sort of getting a fresh start again, using your own
Yeah.
contract for your work with under Xedra?
Yes, I was thinking of like having my own contract, but also I was this contract is tied to a conceptual like experiment, which kind of um, tied together different concepts around NFTs or like the creator economy. So what I wanted to do with this contract was like release singles as one-on-ones, but also um, use these singles to give them some utility, like maybe make. I was thinking of making a Discord server and then like token gate some channels to put some like exclusive content there, like the project files or some demos or things like that. And also, SudoSwap was launched, I think, and like SudoSwap allowed you to create like liquid pools for NFTs, and I was thinking of like using this contract for also like giving it like a speculative nature, and so I even provided liquidity for those tokens. Like so, I could give them to someone who I considered a peer or part of my community, and they could sell it if they wanted to, but it could give them like access to the server as well. And so like it was this kind of experiment. I write a mirror article about this, and you could probably
Yeah.
find it. But it's something that kind of didn't really took off, or I didn't really feel motivated to follow up because there was just no market for it, and there was no much interest in it. So yeah, and that's why I stopped minting on that contract. I minted some singles there. I was making at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Always. It seems like you're keen to always keep experimenting. Um, and so that's like, mid 2022. So jumping ahead like a year later, um, it looks like that's when you released in April 2023, you released an album as a collection of audio NFTs called the Vita Project.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Yeah,
do you want to tell
go
us about
on.
this?
Yeah. So this project was like a debut album. I wanted to include tracks I've been working on for quite some time, and also some tracks that I had already released. Like one of them was Exploit, and I minted that one on catalog first, but then I think I burned it so I could include it in this project. I'm not sure if it still exists, but anyways, so yeah, at the time people were talking a lot about open editions, like, um, yeah, I thought it was really cool, like as a way to have allow for access to collect things on chain that were not like you wouldn't have to pay a lot for something, and I create a custom contract for this because there weren't this. I think there still aren't platforms that allow you to create like an album uh, collection. You would have to mint each one individually, and I thought of like maybe I should uh, could create a custom contract where, aside from just calling the mint function, you could add a parameter, and that parameter would change the metadata you would get from the NFT. So that's what the contract does. And also wanted to create like a standalone web experience alongside with it. So, and
Yeah.
also something else that inspired this was AI. So the visuals, the visual concept of this project. Um, I was testing, playing with Stable Diffusion. So a friend of mine helped me. V was someone I met through Twitter and was into crypto, but also AI, and was using Stable Diffusion for this kind of stuff, and kind of gave me an introduction to this, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I made the visuals with that. Also some editing,
Yeah.
but it was a combination of things.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you did it with AI. That's really interesting. Yeah, it's a really cool release. There's a lot of music on there too, so I recommend people go check that out. Um, so a little bit later that year, in August 2023, you released a music video on Zora called "New Love," and there was some accompanying audio NFTs as well for this release. Do you have any recollections about this mint?
Yes, so this EP, I I wanted to make a music video, so I created this EP, and I only minted the main single from this EP, which is on Sound, and I also made a physical edition of this, and I first I kept it for myself, but then I gifted it away, and it has an NFC chip that links to the token, that links to
Oh,
the release. Like, it doesn't link to any token specifically. It actually links to just like a landing page where it directs you to the tokens and everything. So that was an experiment, and yeah, like I wanted to mint on Sora, but Sora had changed so much ever since like it released. And also, like, that version, like the version of Zora where I minted that music video, doesn't exist anymore. Like, it was open edition, but it was limited, and yeah, like, yeah. So, hmm.
right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you can still see the token, but yeah, it's the front end is not what it originally was. Um,
Yeah.
so cool. So that's like, August 2023 when that release happened. Um, from here, like, can you sort of walk us to the present a little bit? Like you've continued to mint music on a pretty regular basis since then. So is there anything in particular that like you'd want to highlight that we haven't discussed yet, or anything that comes to mind since that time?
Since 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess during I was way more active in 2020 that I've been. That's my sensation that I've been more active in the past that I've been in the past two 2 years. Uh, and I think that's just because I've been prioritizing my personal life and
Yeah.
but I've been working on an album. There's a new EP. I'm halfway there, and I'm very excited about. And I'm going to make some physical editions for that release as well. And um, I don't know what to say. Like I've been minting on Zora as well. I'm not a huge fan of the open edition or like this new shift towards NFTs being something that people collect. The one-on-one thing it's kind of in the past. I don't like to be nostalgic, but it kind of feels like that. It doesn't feel like people are collecting one-on-ones that much anymore. Um, but I've been minting on Zora some singles and remixes, and yeah, I'm planning to make NFTs for a multi-edition NFT contract for this new release that I'm working on. I'm leaning into a very like a different direction artistically. Mm. Most of my music is instrumental; doesn't have much lyrics and vocals,
Yeah.
and I'm leaning more in this project to use my voice and sing, and I'm excited about that. So,
That's awesome. Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. Some important things have happened, like October past year. I got surgery, the surgery I wanted to get done ever since, I don't know, like 2022 or something. And yeah, I'm still, I find myself lately going back to ideas I had around social tokens and NFTs from 2021. It's funny. I'm going back to my journals at the time and like looking at sketches and diagrams of concepts, and I'm thinking of, part of me wants to um, be platform independent, like I don't, or agnostic, like I don't, I wish, I desire to have my own website and like just have self-owned contracts and um, try to aim for both like a general audience but also a crypto native audience. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that's to me it's like it's a special skill set. I think there's something really empowering about the idea that for most artists, they probably need to rely on someone to mint an NFT for them if they wanted to. But like, there's something empowering that we've been working on doing this ourselves for like so many years at this point that we don't really need to rely on anyone else to make sure our music sort of lives on. And it's all
Yeah,
work in progress. But no, I totally resonate with what you're saying though.
yeah. My mind has been like um, just just going around the this reflection about how people have hopped into different trends, especially in this space like music, NFT, and Web3 space. Like I have found myself, and I've seen other artists kind of like chasing the next platform or like testing the new thing that everyone's testing, and then no one has found a good model. And I find myself like I should probably just try to go to basics, like just keep it as NFTs, and like maybe create a social token, design a distribution model that is not built around hype, but more like long-term sustainability, and like be like, don't have points of failure, don't have points where like if this platform goes down, oh, then like people don't have a way to engage in it. Like, just I've been going back to this kind of like, I should take advantage of this skill set that I have, and also keep learning how to like improve it, but keep it simple, like keep it as simple as possible, and like people will find a way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's such a good point. And, I think it just kind of becomes more clear with time. If you look back on sort of the cycles of the crypto space over, many years at this point, things just kind of like go in waves, they go in cycles. And, from my perspective, it was like, well, as we said earlier, like in early 2020, like no one really could conceive of what a music NFT was or an audio NFT was. And so we've already been at zero. We can come, but we can come back from it again. It's just the way
Yeah,
that I think about it.
yeah, I share
Uh,
that thought too.
yeah. So, something I'm kind of curious, like, do you have, say there is someone, like there's a musician who is listening to this and they're new, like they discovered, smart contracts and blockchains and they're really curious about it. Like, do you have any advice for this person experimenting with tokenizing their music today?
Hmm. Um, I guess it depends on what is the thing that they want to aim for. Like, it depends on like what do you find interesting about this, or what do you want to do? Like, what is your goal, right?
Yeah.
And like some people want to, like, if you want to create an archive, by all means, like try things like Zora, or like mm, Manifold, or like trying to learn as much as possible about the infrastructure, because that will get you familiarized with how things actually work. That's, kind of textbook. But um, yeah, if the goal is to, like, a lot of musicians here, I think they're trying to create economic models to support their work, and I think people, I don't know what advice I would give. Like, I think everyone's still kind of experimenting and trying things, and I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
it's
it's,
no,
it's kind of
it's
hard.
it is hard. It is hard. And, I guess what hearing you sort of makes me think about is like, um, I think it's part of the difficulty is that people over the past couple of years have like made their rationale for trying out NFTs to be money only. And so when the
Yeah.
money goes, they don't have any reason to use NFTs. But like, if you think back to the earlier days, like, especially with like crypto art, like 2019, even 2018 through 2020, like
Hmm.
there wasn't really much money going around. Like even like very early in this discussion, you mentioned that you saw super rare as being kind of the place where there was some prestige, there was some money exchanging hands, but it really wasn't by today's standards. It was very small, and it was basically
Yeah.
like a small community, sort of like trading between themselves. And a, a lot of those artists, like they never expected, even me, like when I first started out in mid 2020, I never would have expected that things would grow as fast as they did for the art space. And so, that's something that I've been thinking about too, is sort of like, to me, there's so much basic utility of tokenizing your media of all types. Like, for any blockchain application, whether it be, you know, you could even just think of it in terms of like display use cases or like preservation or provenance. There's all these basic things that
Right.
you don't even have to think about the money aspect of it until like far downstream of that. Um, so yeah, I think it's like a cyclical thing where people will just sort of like settle back into the basic utility of doing it and the fun of it.
Fundamentals.
So yeah,
The fundamentals.
fundamentals. Yes.
Yeah, like it's interesting, right? Like there's this weird asymmetry or unbalance between like um music being something that is mostly a passion project for most, like it's not it's like very few people can make it a career, and even that still applies to crypto. Like it's just very hard to just make money off of it, and and also there's like so you have to be very intrinsically motivated to do it, to make music. And kind of the same kind of applies to crypto, but it like everything around it is still very focused on money. So it's like I don't
Yeah.
know, there's that dissonance there, but and yeah, but I don't know what to say. Like, and also it's kind of hard for me because like everyone has their own journey, and in my case, like most of the income I've made in crypto doesn't come from selling NFTs. It comes from using DeFi. It comes from
Right.
using apps and stuff. Like it's so it's like that aspect of like yeah, like it's not the music that's sustaining me afloat, which like yeah. So I don't have a
Yeah. I
solution.
mean, at the same time, though, like, I absolutely hear that. And it's like, but at the same time, you've created this sort of like this huge historical body of music on the blockchain that it is this rich history as we've sort of walked through all of this today. And, you know, you can never really know how valuable that will be over time, but it's sort of like, you did it. And I think if there's one thing that I might add is sort of like, um, I think a lot of people are inclined to sort of like wait for the market to sort of pick back up to start minting again. But it's like, if you wait, you haven't really built that history. Like the token hasn't had the
Mhm.
chance to sort of like season, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I guess that's like something that I hope is that people sort of just start minting their music and not to like wait. But that's just my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
No, I share it.
Um,
I feel like I feel very. I think that there's never been a time where I haven't felt so inspired and motivated to mint music and release music, just make and release it and mint it. Even though that like the odds are against me market wise, like no one is like it's not so prioritized. Music is not so prioritized even in like these consumer platforms that people are building. Um,
right. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm still very excited about it. I don't know. I just find it very cool to especially with AI. By the way, like Vita project, I started to sketch the custom contract with ChatGPT. Like I know some JavaScript, but I don't know Solidity. So I had to use ChatGPT to help me guide me through how to customize a contract, and I managed to make it work. Like I had to like it kept doing mistakes, but eventually I got it right. And I feel like AI has improved in the past 2 years, and you can get something like you can make things for yourself much easier than before.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really feeling like the future is sort of like if you have a great idea, you'll be increasingly able to just sort of like bring it into being from AI alone. So
Yeah.
it's kind of exciting. Are you using AI tools in music at all?
Not really. I think the only AI tool I've used for music is stem separation tools. Like yeah,
Mm.
like which is wild. Like that this kind of tooling is awesome. Like you can throw a track and just take out the vocals or the drums out of it, and it's something you couldn't do before. It's kind of like part of Robinson said. Like it's like you already baked a cake, but you somehow can take the eggs out of it. It's
Yeah.
crazy. That's the only thing I've used. I'm not really that into like AI tools for music, but that's the only thing I've used.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, I use AI a lot for visual stuff, but like, I am a musician by training, and like, I've never really had a desire to use AI for music because I just like know how to write the music I want to write. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe, I'm sure things will just keep getting more wild and maybe I'll just start doing it. But
I've heard like there's interesting things like I've seen I know someone who is very much into AI music tooling, and I find it very powerful for sound design. Like you could make the AI do like a track or create a sound, and like you can sample it, but you wouldn't allow the like it wouldn't be about the AI producing the whole thing. It's more like you just take advantage of its capabilities for sound design.
yeah, that's definitely actually like that's probably the biggest thing I am excited about with music and AI is for timbres, for like you said, like sampling sounds,
Yes.
and that is definitely something that I definitely want to try. Maybe I'll make an album centered around that concept at some point. Um, so I think from my perspective, that we've pretty much like covered the gamut of your history in minting in the space, and so is there anything else that we've forgotten, or do you think we've really kind of hit everything?
I think we did. Yeah, I think that was pretty good, pretty extensive, over about 2 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's been so much fun. I've really enjoyed this, and it's so great to walk through this history with you. Um, so, what are the best places for people listening to follow you and to watch out for your latest releases?
So I would say that my website Xedra.digital. You could find my socials there. You can find music links to streaming platforms and Bandcamp, and also like at the bottom of the links, you can find the archive of all of these NFTs from the past and even my past discography as Split. And yeah, so my website probably, and also Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram. That's where I'm posting most of the time.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Zedra, thank you for joining Music NFT Archive.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Please follow Music NFT Archive on Twitter X and subscribe to Music NFT Archive on YouTube. We'll see you next time.